Hi, I'm David Kelley, President and CEO of Chakana Copper. Chakana Copper is a junior explorer with a very significant discovery in the Ancash province of Peru. It's a copper, gold, silver discovery. We put out our first initial inferred resource earlier this year, 6.7 million tons at about 1.8% copper equivalent. The mineralization is hosted in tourmaline breccia pipes. We get very, very high grade zones within these breccia pipes. We've hit massive sulfides that are 90% chalcopyrite in our drilling. So it's a very exciting project, but I think perhaps the most exciting part is the untapped potential. We've only tested about 18% of the targets that we've defined on the project, and some of our best, most exciting targets are yet to be drilled, and we're advancing our permit to give us access to that. So it's a very good time to be looking at Chakana Copper and investing in a batteries metals company like we are.
I hear you. I love copper, but we can't not talk about Peru, right? So we've seen yet again another kind of change of government with the president being ousted. We're talking about Pedro Castillo being ousted by Congress. So what's happening? How does it affect you?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's now 6 presidents in 6 years, right? So that's not a statistic that you like to throw out when you're talking about sovereign risk. So, yeah, you know, in my view is that this is a positive development for Peru. When Pedro Castillo was elected, I never felt that it was going to have a significant impact on the mining industry just because of the momentum that Peru has as a mining country. But having said that, you know, his agenda was not pro-mining. It was not pro-business. It was very much pro indigenous rights and supporting the poor people, which is a very noble cause. There's nothing wrong with that, but he hasn't delivered on that. His administration has been completely ineffective. He's under multiple investigations right now for corruption. So to actually see Pedro Castillo ousted as president was what everyone expected would happen, right? So it's actually, if you know it's going to happen and you know that it can't get worse, it can only get better, then this is a very good step for Peru. Now, you look at who's the president now, Dina Boluarte, and she's much more qualified as president. She's still from the left, and she's still from the same party that she and Pedro Castillo initially were part of. They've been ousted from that party, but she's got a very thin line to walk right now, right? She's got to come to the center. She's got to try to build a coalition. She's just appointed 17 of 19 cabinet members that are very impressive. The Minister of Energy and Mines has got 37 years experience in the oil and gas business. Very successful career. 8 of the 17 ministers appointed so far are women. She's the first woman president in Peru's history. So there's some very positive things happening right now, and I'm excited about us getting past the Pedro Castillo administration and moving forward with something that's much more positive for Peru.
Okay, so she's from the same party. She's the vice president, I think, as well. But it's interesting to see how these things progress. So will she be frozen with fear about making any decisions, any missteps, or will she want to kind of follow her own path and kind of get on with things? So, in the short term, how do you as a company play it? I mean, you can't be too outspoken about these things, but I hear you. It can only be better, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's so far shown to be very decisive. I mean, appointing a very qualified cabinet as a first step. She originally said that she would stand for the remainder of Pedro Castillo's term, which was 2026. There was a lot of protests and outrage over that by, mostly Pedro Castillo's supporters, saying they wanted new elections. And so she has now put a proposal in front of Congress to move the elections up to April of 2024, 2 years earlier than they would have been. And so I think she's showing and demonstrating that, first of all, she's decisive and she's listening to what the people are saying. So, what does that mean to have early elections? Well, I think Peru's learned a very valuable lesson that if you elect an unqualified person to be president of the country, and they then appoint unqualified people, and then you have all the corruption. That's not a good thing for Peru. So I don't think the elections would go anywhere close to where they went the last time. I think the next elections will move more back to where it puts Peru first, and it brings in it reassures the foreign markets that Peru is an investable jurisdiction, and I think the mining industry is going to continue to produce the way they have been. I mean, the one thing to look at, Matthew, is the fact that, copper production hasn't dropped. Yes, there have been protests. Las Bambas continues to have its problems, but the mining industry is moving ahead. It's still doing what it's always done in Peru, and that's produce copper, lead, zinc, gold, silver, multiple metals. It's a mining jurisdiction, and that's not going to change overnight.
Okay. Fair point. Okay, it's kind of business as usual within the mining industry. Let's talk about you, because you're obviously at the beginning end of that. You're an explorer. You're after these batch of pipes. 2022, it's been a tough environment to be an explorer in terms of access to capital, the cost of that capital. You got COVID restrictions, and obviously movement of staff, employees as well, kind of been good. And copper came off. Right, I think it's back up to 390 today. We're looking at it. So starting to make the right noises again. So tough 2022. You're still in the game. What's 2023? How do you play it?
Well, you touched on the most important point, is to be in the game, right? If you don't manage yourself and your business well, if you don't manage your capital well, then you won't be in the game, right? So we are in the game. We've worked really hard to protect our capital as much as we can. We've gone through every aspect of the business. From a cost management standpoint, how can we optimize things? How can we make sure that money is going into the ground? I mean, something that will be announced soon is we had renegotiated our agreement with Condor to spread out the payment schedule for one of two option agreements. Well, we've just done the same on the second agreement, and that information will come out soon. So that helps us, right? When we raise capital, we can deploy more of that capital to go into the ground. We're still very much a discovery story. We do have a resource. I think it's a very important resource because it's completely open at depth. It's high grade. It's right next to an active, in a mining district that's active. The nearest operating mine is 500 meters to the east of our property boundaries. So it's a great combination, I guess, to have a high grade resource that we know is going to get bigger, and then also have all of this really exceptional exploration upside. And that exploration upside is recognized globally by some of the biggest mining companies in the world. We have an agreement with Barrick on the south side to test these, this, what I think is one of the most impressive gold anomalies I've ever seen in my career. And Gold Fields is an 18% shareholder of Chakana. So the fact that we've got a validation from the mining industry's best miners, and our location is exceptional, and we're finding high-grade mineralization. I really don't think there are too many juniors out here today that can speak to the same positive points that we have.
Right. So, but like I say, I refer to the point. It was a tough year last year in terms of what you set out to do at the beginning of the year. Were you able to deliver those things? Did you have to sort of change and be a little bit more agile and react to the market there? And has that held you back some?
It's not really held us back. I mean, the main thing that's held us back is not having the permit to drill on the south side, and that's been a frustrating part of working in Peru my entire career. This isn't like an outcome of Pedro Castillo being president. Suddenly Peru permitting process is slow. It's always been slow. If you go back to my earliest interviews, I've always talked about one of the really frustrating things about working in Peru is the bureaucracy, the fact that it's multiple agencies agencies involved, multiple levels of approval. But we've worked really hard, and we're very close to getting that permit for the south side. We know now, just last week, ANA, which is the National Water Authority, has approved our permit. That sends the permit back to the Ministry of Energy and Mines, and what we're waiting on now is notification of the approval of the environmental permit. And then we enter the final stage, which is called initiation of activities. If things go well during that stage, then we should have the permit to drill on the south side by January. Now, January and February, for people that are familiar with Peru, those are the heaviest months of the rainy season. So, will we start drilling as soon as we get the permit? We will evaluate that. We have drilled through the rainy season in the past, but that's when we had the luxury of being able to build the platforms, build the road access prior to the rainy season, and then operate during the rainy season. In this case, we would have to do that work in the middle of the rainy season. So we might wait till March to start drilling. But I can tell you this, we've got some really, really exciting targets to drill on the south side. We've advanced the permit to the point that it's almost in hand. We've done some great community services work by building a community a meeting center or meeting hall in one of the local communities, and that's just been signed off by the local community. We're advancing the geometallurgical program with the eye that this high grade resource on the north side could go into production much sooner than something else that we might find this year or next year on the project. So we're moving forward on multiple points. We haven't been delayed that much. We're watching our capital very carefully. We just got a $500,000 IGV refund. That was just approved yesterday. So that's a nice little injection of capital into the company to go with the $2.8 million we already had. So we're healthy financially. We've got a bright outlook. The permit's almost in hand. And I'm like you. 2022 was a rough year for multiple reasons, but I do think things are going to change in 2023 and it's going to look better.
Well, I mean, let's look at what those catalysts could be, because I think the market didn't do much heavy lifting for anyone last year, or 2022. 2023, there's a few, I guess, some green shoots that people are referring to, and maybe it's hope more than anything. Obviously, today's announcement by U.S. government on inflation figures help. It's a start. There's been a reaction from in the markets, but that in itself is not going to be enough. So what else is going to help? Copper price, I suspect, but what else do you need?
Well, I think, it seems like every month for me, there's more recognition of the importance of copper as a battery metal, as a green energy metal, right? And people are catching on. People are understanding. A year ago we were talking about, well, what's missing now? You're a copper company. What does that mean for the investment market? And what it means is the fact that copper is the backbone of the green energy revolution. There's just no other way to think about it. It's a great metal for economic growth, but it's also it features prominently in every single green energy technology that is out there: wind, solar, even nuclear, transmission, storage. Everything involves copper. So I think that's getting better all the time. I think the supply of copper is always going to be an issue, because we know that the major mines are decreasing in grade. The old mines are running out of production, out of ore. New mines coming on are not going to fill that gap. So there is a looming supply gap. It's going to get worse with uptake of clean energy type of things. So I think that's going to work in not just our favor, but all copper company that are in this industry.
Right. Okay. And I'm just sort of looking forward to 2023 because it's not 2022. But also trying to understand the speed at which this thing moves, the speed at which a market can move. A phrase which is thrown at us all the time is, metal super cycle coming. People are understanding the basics of, how things work out there. Younger people are moving away, or sort of moving towards commodities with a utility to them, such as, commodities which can solve problems. Can they, help with, net zero carbon emissions? Can they help with the kind of green revolution? Can they make our lives, the younger generation, better. So, are you? I don't know what conversations you were having, because obviously you kind of got a big institutional component to this, but you also do, go out and talk to investors. What are you hearing from them that they need to see from you to get involved with companies like you? I'm pro copper. I think we need all of the above, but what's going to get them over the line to invest in kind of, smaller, earlier stage stories like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the conversations I've had recently have been with very opportunistic investors. They're value investors. They like our story. They like the fact that we have a good discovery track record and we have a lot of upside potential. But they also see the value. And I've had numerous conversations lately with people that are coming in and buying, taking advantage of the, the contrarian investors. They're investing when the market's down. Just go look at the volume of our stock in the last week. We've had huge volume, and it's people that they're trying to take advantage of the situation. There's been tax loss selling, but yet we've held our share price for the most part. So that tells me that we've got some smart retail investors out there that are coming in and seeing the value. They're recognizing the fact that, we've got 190,000 ounces of gold, 11.7 million ounces of silver, and 130 million pounds of copper just in our initial resource. And it's all open, so it's going to get better. And if you look at the value of our company in terms of like dollars per gold ounce in the ground, it's $13 an ounce in the ground, and gold's at $1,800 an ounce today. So those are the kind of things that the really smart investors pick up on. And then the copper thing, yeah, I think that's always been the focus of our company is copper. We're seeing some things in the geology that are so exciting for us. Everyone's always, the first thing they ask is where's the porphyry? Where's the heat engine that's driving these high grade tourmaline breccia pipes? Well, as we are moving deeper and deeper in the system with our drilling, also, coming down the mountainside, but still drilling deeper holes, we're seeing a deeper part of the geology that we hadn't seen before. And, we're learning a lot about where the source of this mineralization is coming from. And so that's also part of the work that we're doing now. I mean, we've got these targets on the south side to drill. They're just obvious things. They're in your face. You have to drill these things. But we're also building our knowledge about what's really driving the engine on this system. And if you were to drill a deeper hole to look for a porphyry, where would you go? And so that's an exciting part of the geologic story too that's also evolving.
Okay, but I guess the most important question you've got to answer for your shareholders or for anyone looking in to try and get on board the copper thematic is like, how do you go from where you are today and show where the value comes from, how this company should be valued, and by that I mean you talk about the pounds that you've got, you talk about the ounces that you've got, and again, we talked to a lot of companies who've said, well, look, maybe we need to just shake up and change up our strategy for how we, access capital. DSO type projects, we've seen people shake up their strategy by going from large projects to smaller projects with smaller capex requirements, so they're not kind of blowing out the share structure, but having to raise expensive capital. Or they say, well, actually, we're just going to drill. We're just going to drill, and just kind of keep this going, and hope that we can continue to raise money. I mean, you must have had those discussions at board level, and be prepared to, change things up to kind of make them work. Because at the moment, like I say, you've been battered by so many waves. You got to hope that next year copper price does it for you. You got to hope that it's a much more positive, momentum-driven marketplace. But those things are out of your control. So, what are the things that you look to that you are in control of, the levers that you do have available to you?
Well, some of the things we talked about, stay in the game, right? When people look at Chakana for an investment, I love talking to those people, and I want them to see that we're running an optimized business. We're focused on the bottom line. We're spending our shareholders' money as carefully as we can. So that's principle number one. Do you believe in the management of the company that you're investing in? The exploration upside has done. We've done very well with that. That's still going to be a prominent part of. That's what our, you mentioned institutional shareholders and our strategic shareholder in Goldfields. They believe there's tier one discovery potential here. Tier one. I mean, that's in the top, quartile of all discoveries globally. So if you've got a company that believes in that potential in your project and believes in your team, that's a great thing, a great point of validation. And so we very much want to drill to smartly to test that potential. We also want to advance our knowledge of the resource that we have, so that we might have an option in the future of putting a small tonnage, high grade operation into production on the north side. We've hit massive sulfide zones in our breccia pipes that are 27% copper and a kilogram of silver. I mean, that's just phenomenal. And that exploration on those breccia pipes is still open as well. So we can kind of play different games. Are we going to radically change our strategy? Not in any significant way. We're not gonna go out and acquire a bunch of properties and turn into a project generator or something like that. We believe in what we're doing. We have really strong backing with our institutional shareholders and our strategic shareholder. So we're going to continue to do what we've done. But we're also going to, promote the fact that we are part of the green energy revolution. We have copper, and we've talked about this before. You're much better off producing copper at a high grade than at a low grade from an environmental standpoint. If you look at the CO2 emissions associated with a giant disseminated low grade copper deposit versus a high grade copper deposit, there's not even a comparison. You're much better off producing your metal from high grade deposits than you are from low grade deposits.
Okay, so 2023, what are we judging you on? What are you going to do with the capital you've got available to you, and why is it going to make a difference?
Judge us on our performance in getting that permit. That's really critical. That opens up 2,500 hectares on the south side. We've already done all the exploration. We're ready to go, right? We're fine tuning our target selection and the number of drill holes. The plan is to drill about 4,000 meters on the south side. I'd like to have another 1,000 meters for a deeper test on the north side. Again, coming back to this idea of, what's driving this mineral system. We're thinking big, thinking big with respect to the exploration. Let's bust this thing wide open. Let's put all the knowledge that we have. Judge us on the knowledge we gain and how much we advance our understanding of the resources. We're doing a geometallurgical study right now. We've just engaged a very talented metallurgist to work with the geometallurgical mineralogical work that we're doing. We're sponsoring a PhD study at the University of Tasmania at Codes on the geometallurgical characteristics of the Soledad breccia pipe. So that kind of knowledge gain is really important. And then, judge us on our performance on the ESG side of things, and the work that we've done with the communities. We've just completed a 2-story community hall that is when you look at this building on the side of the mountain in this very small community of 150 people, they have something that they're really, really proud of. It's a brand new community center. It's 2 stories. It has all the modern facilities, bathrooms, and running water and electricity. And it's a great example of the collaboration and positive outcome that can come from a mining company working with a local community, and the mutual benefit that relationship brings. So I would love to be judged by that in the market, and I'd like to be judged at the end of 2023 with our share price performance, because at the end of the day, that's how our shareholders get rewarded.